the hidden Bitcoin node nobody talks about. Have you ever wondered if there's something hidden inside Bitcoin, something only the insiders know about? Most people think there's only one way to run Bitcoin. They think of Bitcoin Core, the reference software everyone uses. But what if I told you there's another version of Bitcoin running quietly in the background, used by some of the most serious Bitcoin developers, yet almost nobody outside the community talks about it? This hidden version is called Bitcoin Knots. And once you understand why it exists and what it does differently, you'll see Bitcoin in a completely new light. Because Bitcoin Knots isn't just a copy of Core, it's something far more interesting. To understand Knots, we first have to understand Bitcoin Core. Bitcoin Core is the main software most people use to run a node. It's the standard. It enforces the rules of Bitcoin: block size, transaction validity, consensus. If you run Core, you're basically on the same page as the majority of the network. It's the reference implementation. But here's the thing, Core isn't the only option. Enter Bitcoin Knots, a project quietly maintained by Luke Dashjr, one of Bitcoin's oldest and most opinionated developers. Knots looks a lot like Core because it is based on Core's codebase, but Luke has added his own twist. He's layered on features, policy rules, and stricter validation checks that Core doesn't include. It's like Bitcoin Core, but with the dials turned differently. So what makes Knots special? For one, it has extra features for advanced users. Things like detailed transaction policies, extended command line options, and stricter relay rules. These aren't for casual users. They're for people who want to push Bitcoin's limits or keep an even tighter grip on validation. Imagine two cars. Core is the standard model everyone drives. Knots is the same car, but tuned for performance with hidden switches on the dashboard. Now here's the part that feels like hidden knowledge. Knots sometimes rejects transactions that Core would relay. Why? Because Luke believes Bitcoin should stay pure. No spam, no nonsense, no gray areas. Knots is more conservative. It enforces rules that aren't strictly necessary for consensus but align with a vision of Bitcoin that's harder, stricter, and cleaner. Does that mean Knots creates a fork? No. That's the genius of it. Knots enforces the same consensus rules as Core, so it doesn't split off into a new coin, but it adds policy rules on top, like an extra layer of filtering. It's still Bitcoin, just with a sharper edge. And that's why it matters, because Bitcoin is not just code, it's also politics. Every choice in the software, what to allow, what to reject, how to prioritize transactions, shapes the network. Core makes compromises to keep everyone on board. Knots doesn't compromise in the same way. It's like a glimpse into an alternate Bitcoin, one that's stricter, cleaner, and less forgiving. Now think about this. If the majority of the network ran Knots instead of Core, Bitcoin would feel different. Some transactions wouldn't relay as easily. Some behavior would get shut down. It would still be Bitcoin, but the culture and the incentives would shift. And that's the hidden power of Knots. It shows us how fragile and how flexible Bitcoin's social layer really is. Most Bitcoiners never hear about this because Core dominates the conversation. But the insiders know, developers know, miners know. Knots is like a quiet shadow reminding us that Bitcoin is software, and software can always be rewritten. Why does this matter to you? Because understanding Knots gives you a peek into Bitcoin's future battles. The fight over block size, the fight over transaction types, the fight over scaling, all of these were really fights over policy. And Knots is where policy experiments happen. It's where the question gets asked, what if Bitcoin were just a little bit stricter? Here's a little-known fact. Luke Dashjr has always been outspoken about what he thinks Bitcoin should be. He's not afraid to push back against trends he believes threaten Bitcoin's integrity. Knots is his way of coding those beliefs directly into the node software. It's not just code. It's philosophy expressed in C++. Some people say Knots is unnecessary, that Core is enough. Others say Knots is essential, a reminder that Bitcoin should stay lean, hard, and focused. But here's the truth. Whether you love it or ignore it, Knots is proof that Bitcoin is bigger than any single piece of software. The network survives because multiple implementations exist, even if one of them stays in the shadows. Think of Knots as a mirror, showing us what Bitcoin could look like under a stricter vision. It doesn't need millions of users. It doesn't need to be popular. Its power comes from simply existing. And if you're the kind of person who loves Bitcoin for its principles, Knots whispers to you, this is the harder path. This is the uncompromising version. Now imagine this. Years from now, Bitcoin faces another civil war over scaling or over new transaction types. Core wants one path, but Knots insists on another. If enough nodes run Knots, suddenly the debate shifts. Suddenly, policy rules become battlegrounds, and the network finds itself in a tug-of-war between flexibility and purity. That's why Bitcoin Knots is so fascinating. It's not just software, it's a statement. It's a reminder that Bitcoin is not fixed in stone. It's living, breathing code. And every developer who writes that code is leaving fingerprints on the future of money. So the next time you hear someone say Bitcoin Core is the only option, remember Bitcoin Knots. Remember that there are hidden versions of Bitcoin running quietly in the background, shaping policy in ways most people will never notice. And remember that this hidden knowledge gives you an edge because you're seeing the layers of Bitcoin most never see. Bitcoin is more than price charts, more than halvings, more than hype. It's a living network full of hidden currents. And Bitcoin Knots is one of those currents, subtle, powerful, and invisible to the crowd. If you've stayed with me this long, you now know something most Bitcoiners don't. You know about the shadow node, the stricter path, the alternate vision of Bitcoin. That's knowledge you won't get from mainstream channels and because they're too busy chasing headlines. But here you get the deeper story. And if you want to keep uncovering the secrets of Bitcoin, the things nobody else is talking about, then stick around, subscribe, and share this with someone who only thinks they understand Bitcoin. Because the truth is, there's always another layer, and Bitcoin Knots is just the beginning.